Deuteronomy, the 6th chapter. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land to which you are going over to possess it, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments, which I commanded you all the days of your life, and that your days may be long. Hear therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you in the land of flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on your doorposts of your house and on your gates. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you, with great and good cities that you did not build, and houses full of all good things that you did not fill, and cisterns that you did not dig, and the vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. And when you eat and are full, then take care lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. It is the Lord your God you shall fear. Him you shall serve, and by his name you shall swear. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of the peoples who are around you. For the Lord your God is in your midst, and he is a jealous God. Lest the anger of the Lord lest the anger of the Lord your God be kindled against you, and he destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test, as you tested him at Massah. You shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his testimonies and his statutes which he has commanded you. You shall do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, that it may go well with you, and that you may go in and take possession of the good land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers, by thrusting out all your enemies from before you, as the Lord has promised. When your son asks you in time to come, what is the meaning of the testimonies and the statutes and the rules that the Lord our God has commanded you, then you shall say to your son, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And the Lord showed signs and wonders, great and grievous, against Egypt and against Pharaoh and all his household before our eyes. He brought us out of there that he might bring us in and give us the land that he swore to give to our fathers. And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God, for our good always, that he might preserve us as we are this day. And it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to do all this commandment before the Lord our God, as he has commanded us. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Please join in the responsive reading of Proverbs, the 23rd chapter, verses 22 to 25. Listen to your father who gave you life.
And do not despise your mother when she is old.
Buy truth and do not sell it.
By wisdom, instruction, and understanding.
The father of the righteous will greatly rejoice.
He who fathers a wise son will be glad in him.
Let your father and mother be glad.
Let her before you rejoice.
And the second reading is from the book of Exodus, the second chapter. Now a man from the house of Levi went and took his wife, a Levite woman. The woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she took him a basket made of bulrushes and daubed it with bitumen and pitch. She put the child in it and placed it among the reeds by the river bank. And his sister stood at a distance to know that what would be done to him. Now the daughter of Pharaoh came down to bathe at the river, while her young woman walked beside the river. She saw the basket among the reeds, and sent the servant woman, and she took it. When she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the baby was crying. She took pity on him and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call you a nurse from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." So the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages." So the woman took the child and nursed him. When the child grew older, she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, because, she said, "I drew him out of the water." The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
It comes out of Proverbs anyway, and I'm going to get to this. Proverbs 31. You've got to get to Proverbs 31:10. Every woman needs to have, and every man, when I do pre-marriage counseling, I make them read this and tell them to read it every day for the first week. Because you see, they forget. They don't always remember. But verse 10, an excellent wife, who can find? She is far more precious than jewels. The heart of her husband trusts in her, and he will have no lack of gain. She does him good and not harm all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works with willing hands. She is like the ships of the merchant. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. We go on and on and on. Women are not perfect, but practically, let's go down to 30. Let's go down to verse 27. Well, 26 first. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. I want you, children, well, all of you are children, and I want you to think of it. Some of you don't have a good relationship with your mom. That's too bad. I'm sorry. But before they die, unless if they've already died, then you still got to get right with them. But you got to work it out. And there are some people can't even go to, Hallmark's got all these Mother's Day cards, and they can't find one because they're not in a good relationship with their mom. Okay, first thing I tell you, try to forgive. No, excuse me, not try. Forgive your parents, and then try to work on it, and try to keep that forgiveness at the front of your mind. Her husband also, and he praises her. Guys, we really need to start thanking our wives for all the stuff that they do at home. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. And this 30, I love this one. Charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. And in the gates is where everything happens. All contracts are signed, that's where all the bigwigs are, and that's, you've got to do it for your wife in front of other people. Praise her. And if there's ever a put down, you better make 5 put-ups, make it even. Happy Mother's Day. My gift to you is to really just to say, Happy Mother's Day. I'm proud of you. I would not, well, first of all, I wouldn't ever be a good mother, but I don't have it in me. What you do and how you continue to strive and work and care and tend to, it's phenomenal. And there's not a guy in the world that I know who would switch with you. There's a lot of reasons that I won't get into that. But this society we live in right now is undermining, doing what they can to minimize or, in fact, even ignore the role that a woman plays as a mother in the household raising her children. Some schools, in fact, have stopped Mother's Day, celebrating Mother's Day, and Father's Day too. Because, you know, some people don't have a mom. Some people don't have a dad. Well, you had one, but now you no longer have them, but you have them. And you may not know them, but that's not an excuse not to celebrate those who do have it and getting right with it. For some reason, Mother's Day is being threatened. Remember when I was in elementary school, we would take a picture of ourselves, or we would draw it. And I was a terrible drawer, but I liked to do the drawing thing, and so I do. And then we made these clay frames. Did you ever do that? And you try and bring it home like this, not dry because it's going to break. It's going to break. And mine always broke before I got it home because I was, you might want to say the word ADD maybe. And so I would be holding on to it, and then all of a sudden I'd get distracted with something, and then I would drop it, or I'd not be careful with it, and it would crack. And my mom, she has this box with all my broken frames. She's got like 4 of them in there. And I said, "Oh, Mom, they must have broken." She goes, "No, you gave them to me broken." And I said, I always like that kid. But anyway, for some reason they don't want us to do that in some schools. And they're being threatened and ignored. And why? Why is this even happening? So I did a little research on this too. And they say because it might trigger sad feelings. Well, then let's change everything. Because everybody's going to have sad feelings about all kinds of things. It's a ridiculous reason. It says sad feelings will be triggered for children with non-traditional families. I had a non-traditional family. I loved celebrating Mother's Day. And I wasn't always liking my mother. Don't you remember those times? I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. Everybody's going, well, either your kid just said that today on the way to church. They've said it sometime. They're going to say it sometime. And you know you did say it at one time. Because we are in rebellion as kids. And we don't understand what our parents are trying to do. People could say that they understand and are sympathetic to this sort of reasoning that, well, we don't want to hurt people's feelings on it. But to what end? Isn't it good? Isn't it right? Isn't it just a healthy thing to be able to reward our children for one of the most significant relationships in the world? That they would, why would you want to take that away? Why wouldn't you want to celebrate that? When did this stuff start? It's got to stop. And when will our country begin to appreciate the majority's opinion? It's not the minority. Now, I'm concerned about minorities at certain times, in certain ways, in certain areas, but it doesn't take over. If we did that in the world, it would be more chaotic. So we have to start understanding that, yes, God wants us to care for the minority, but it's for the majority as well. See, too often, we don't really realize what we have until it's gone. I don't want Mother's Day to go away. Do you? I don't think so. Now, mothers do more than keep the house and cook and keep the kids tidy and all that. They're nurses and doctors and lawyers and architects and engineers and psychologists and counselors. They're chauffeurs, they're coaches. These are the people who develop personalities, mold vocabularies. They're shapers of attitudes. In my family, it didn't matter what was wrong. It didn't matter what went wrong. It didn't matter if you won a game or you lost a game. My mother, honestly, all the kids in my neighborhood, all of them, and there's probably 120 kids in our neighborhood, they knew my mom, and they called her the warden. She was strict. She was fair, but she was strict. And she would tell you to do something, and you just did it. Think of all the athletes. When I was with FCA, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, I did Vikings Chapel, and occasionally, and when that would happen, there was a guy, a quarterback on our team by the name of Dante Culpepper, and whatever his mother said, yes, Mom, yes, yes, Mom, yes, Mom. No matter what it was, he said, he's scared to death. What if I disappointed her? What if I didn't obey her and she felt bad? He just couldn't do it. He loved his mother so much. I could give you a litany of all the things that mothers do for us, but really, the biggest, the best, the greatest, is they love us unconditionally. Now, I know there's a few bad moms. I know that. I probably know that far better than 99.99% of you, because that's what I do in ministry, is I deal with people who have terrible moms, terrible dads, terrible bosses, terrible everything. I hear the bad news, and you know what? It's still, forgive them. Move on. Grow up. Get healthy. But there are people that still don't want us to observe Mother's Day, but it really only hurts mothers. I mean, not only, it hurts you too, but it really hurts mothers. And you might say, well, I just don't want to celebrate. Don't celebrate them. But don't take it away from us who do. Mothers are people that matter. Would you agree? They matter. Moms matter. They matter because of the impact they have on our lives, and in so many different and wonderful ways. So this morning, I want to look at a few biblical characters that had an impact on people's lives, the lives of their children. And we heard about one out of Exodus. And the Exodus, let me just read it. Let me just get to it there. The birth of Moses is so interesting because here's a mom. Can you imagine? Loved her baby. Saw that it was good, saw that it was healthy, and says, I gotta protect it. But the Pharaoh, remember the Pharaoh used to love Joseph. Well, that Pharaoh's dead and gone. This new Pharaoh didn't care about Joseph and the Hebrew people. So he says, there's too many Hebrew people. We're going to kill those children under 2 years of age. And so Moses' mom is thinking, what can I do? I would rather have my kid alive and have somebody else wipe their tears. Somebody else nurse them, feed them, kiss them when they get a boo-boo. So she put her in a basket and put black towel by 2 minutes around it and pushed it out into the water. And how hard it must have been to think, somebody else is going to have to raise my little boy. But God had plans. God had a purpose. And so, as Brian read the story today, Moses' sister, watching, finds out, runs to the princess and says, "Should I get a Hebrew woman to nurse it?" "Well, that sounds like a great idea. Do you know anybody?" She goes, "Let me think. I got a Rolodex here I'm going to go through. I think I got just the perfect lady." It was a great plan. And so she got to raise up her own child, but she had to give him up first. That's why GBA was so important for me to hear. Not a possession, but a gift. Children are a gift. So, she said she would protect this boy as much as she could possibly protect him. And that's one of the things women do best, is they protect their children. They watch over their children. They keep their eyes on their children. Mothers matter because they protect us. Second thing mothers do, well, I'm going to go to Irma Bombeck. Do you remember that old name, Irma Bombeck? She talks about motherhood. She said this: the easiest part of being a mother is giving birth. The hardest part is showing up for it each day. So I'm thinking about this when you go to Target, they put all those, Satan is over there, by the way, you know that. He's over there tempting your kids. Grab that, push this, right? So they're always, right at the checkout, they put all the things that little kids want. Oh, there's candy, there's all kinds of treats, there's things to play with, and they want it, and if they don't get it, what do? They scream, they cry, and hopefully they'll get it. If they don't, okay, well, they tried, and they cried, but they didn't get it. It's terrible. So I'm watching this kid, and he didn't get what he wanted. So as he's coming outside, there was a gumball machine, one of those great big gumball machines. And he runs over and he tackles it. He's holding on to it. He wants to hold it. Wants one so bad. His mother said, "No, no, no." And she's trying to get him off, and he's screaming, and he finally knocks it over. It breaks, and gumballs are everywhere. And the woman is saying to her son, you have got to stop this behavior, or you're going to find yourself making license plates for the state. Everybody's listening, everybody's kind of laughing. Now the kid is looking around and people are laughing, and he's feeling humiliated, chastised, berated by his mother. But still, what did he do? He ran right to her, wrapped his arms around her, and said, "I'm sorry, Mom." Because even in your worst time, you need your mom. You need your mom. They're protectors, yeah. Secondly, they're supporters. This one brings me to Samuel. When Hannah wanted to have a baby, her husband wanted to have a baby with Hannah, couldn't. So he had other wives and he had children with them. And then the other wives are giving Hannah a bad time. You don't have a baby. And she's just really feeling terrible. And so she brings it to God. And she's weeping and crying and goes to the temple, and the priest is going, "What is wrong with that lady? She must be drunk." No, she's just so sad. She's so sad. She said, "God, if you give me a child, I'll give him right back to you. And you can raise him, the church can raise him." And that's exactly what happened. But every year, she would come, the Bible says, with a little coat. In other words, she never stopped supporting her son. Once her son, always her son. And so she would make clothing for him. It says, the coat with this coat, to keep him warm. That was Hannah. It's an idea there is, we should all kind of have that attitude that we're going to give up our children because they're not our possessions, but they're a gift. So when I decided to go to seminary, Debbie, you all know that story. She was about ready to divorce me. But my mom was excited for me. But see, my mom wasn't excited for me because I was going to be a pastor. She was excited for me because I was going to do something. It didn't matter what I was going to do. I was selling life insurance. Think about that. And she was so happy for you. Really? Yeah. Because she was my mom. She just wanted me to do well. She would babysit our kids when I was in seminary. She'd encourage me in my classwork. And then she said, I want you to grow, took it out of, I think it's the book of John. And Jesus grew in wisdom and knowledge and favor with both God and man. And that's what she wanted. I want Pat to have wisdom and knowledge and favor with both God and man. That was a prayer. It doesn't matter what we do for a living. It's who we're living for. And third, mothers they matter because they teach us. 2 Timothy 1:5 out of the English Standard Version says, I'm reminded of your sincere faith, a faith that dwelt first in your grandmother Lois and your mother Eunice, and now, I'm sure, dwells in you as well. There's the moms. It's the grandmoms. 2 Timothy 3:15. And how, from childhood, you have been acquainted with the sacred writings, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Jesus Christ. Timothy didn't sit under Paul to get this way, sat under his mother. Timothy wrote these letters in the Bible. The greatest teacher he had was the mother. His mother. First glimpse of God's love is seen in the mother's face. Several preachers were arguing about which version of the Bible they like. The first one says, well, that's a King James version. I mean, if it was good enough for Paul, it should be good enough for us. By the way, Paul, that was a joke, and somebody didn't get it, but Paul, King James was about 1,600 years later. So, another laughed and said, oh yeah, I much prefer the English Standard Version. And the third man pipes up and he says, no. I like the NIV, the New International Version, because I seem to understand it better. But the fourth man said he liked the MTV, the Mother's Translation Version. And the other guy said, well, wait a minute. We didn't know your mother could translate the Bible. I didn't even know she knew Greek and Hebrew. The fourth man said, no, she doesn't. She just never put it down on paper, but she read it to me through her actions throughout her life. Many people, in their mind, they see their mother as spiritual giants. And they ought to. But I'd like to almost put this for Father's Day too, but this part, don't miss, ladies. I don't care if your children are 60 years old. They're your children, and they need your guidance. So I guess when it comes right down to it, mothers matter. Because of something more basic than protection, support, and teaching, the real reason that moms matter is because they love us. No matter what. Unconditional. So Mother's Day is actually a particular day set up for you to thank and praise your mom for being a mom. A thank you to Mom for saying, for knowing that you didn't really mean it when you said you hated them. Or when you broke your mom's china, they forgave you. Or for taking your mom for granted. Or for not telling them that you love them as much. Or for making a difference in your life. Today, I want all mothers to know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're loved, that we respect you, and that I'm so sorry that we don't say it enough. Let's rise for closing prayer. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this message today. May it penetrate our hearts. May this Mother's Day be a really cool Mother's Day. One that we can really remember. Something needs to be healed in our heart, Lord. Heal it. Something in our heart that's really exciting. Can you tell somebody we're excited about our mothers and express our feelings and express our thoughts? How great it is, Lord, that you have given us a mom to protect us, to love us, to support us, to care for us. In Jesus' name, amen.